woman, he was basically saying, man, are we serious? This bitch wanted that shit. Stop playing with me, man. Come on, man. That didn't play too good in court. The arrogance, the pompousness. So I bring it back to the Diddy trial, and I say, you know, Diddy, it's the first time we've seen Diddy dressed in age-appropriate clothing. They said Diddy is wearing them, he dressing like Bill Cosby from the Cosby Show. He got them little sweaters. Like he dressing like a Huxtable, you know? This is how he dressing. He wearing shit like this now in court. You know, it's like, it's very, yo, I'm an older guy. Yeah, this is Diddy up in court. Take it easy on me. Right? Take it easy on me. Don't do me too crazy. This ain't pop. This ain't pop chat. This ain't pop. This is Cliff Huxtable. You get what I'm saying? And that does matter when you're looking for these people to perceive you as maybe someone wrongly indicted. I know they try to get that in the closing arguments, which the judge had to make a verbal correction to the jury, but they're trying to come off with this approach because remember, Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, literally said they targeted him. They're targeting him. He wants to look as like someone, you can't look like you're the top Don Dada and people feel bad for you being targeted. Now, if you look a little meek and a little like damn, look at him. This nigga grayed up from the beard up. Nigga's fully gray. He's dressing different. It's intentional. It doesn't look like pocket square, like, you know, got double-breasted like suit. No. Let's keep it. Let's find it. This is the first time Diddy ever looked his age. Diddy's 55, I think. How old is Diddy? First time. When he was running around with Young Miami, he got a button up on as tight as a motherfucker with 3 buttons open up. He wanted you to see the chest hair. You know what I mean? Not like that in court, clearly, right? So I would love to hear from the people in court to hear how Diddy up in there rocking. The judge says on the sex trafficking, which is counts 2 and 4, a transport means to take and convey from one place to another. Reckless disregard satisfy the statutes, okay? The deliberate closing of eyes. You must be unanimous on at least one specific instance of sex trafficking. You got to be unanimous. I think one incident, and I think their strongest incident, or actually 2 incidents for Jane Doe, 50's baby mom, is going to be when they say, well, she had gotten her ass beat, and then he called over Anton, and he forced her to fuck him. Remember, sex trafficking, it means force, fraud, or coercion. Well, if you just got your ass beat, that's force. And then the other instance is when she went for her birthday and she flew somewhere and she said, for my birthday, I just want to be with you, Diddy. Just you, me and you. I don't want to do a freak off. And Diddy said, sorry, baby girl, we're going to go out, we're going to do nice things. We ain't doing no freaky shit, none of that freak off shit. Simultaneously, Diddy hit up an escort and said, yo, link up over here. He lied to her. That's fraud. He told her, you're coming here not to do A. She shows up. He has her doing A. He lied. That will be fraud. There's a coercion that's in all of these situations because they're saying he coerces them with his money, his fame, his resources, hanging a career over their head, hanging their house over their head. And that's how he coerces them. Let's keep it going. Here we go. The judge says prostitution is engaging sexual activity for money or its equivalent. You must be unanimous on at least one specific act of transportation with intent to engage in prostitution. On venue, the U.S. must prove at least one act occurred in SDNY, and it's 8 counties. Okay. So because they charged this in SDNY, and I don't know if you know this, chat, they could have charged, and here's the thing, it depends on how bad they want Diddy. Even if Diddy beats this case, he could still get brought up on other charges in other states. Take R. Kelly, for example. R. Kelly had 2 federal charges or federal cases that kind of captured some of the same behavior, but they were looked at differently for how they were being charged. So they might have caught him on okay, this is your RICO charge here, that's a predicate offense, then they would bump it up to a standalone charge in another place, right? So a lot of if we're going to say prostitution, it happened pretty much in Miami and LA, but also New York. So it says prostitution is engaging in sexual activity for money or its equivalent. Do we believe that Jane Doe was having sex for money? Now, here's where it gets tricky. She's getting an allowance. People. What we never got into was the details of the love contract. If the love contract had said, you have to fuck me 15 days out of the month and you get 10 grand, that would be very profound and really dead to rights. You got Diddy. But it's reasonable to assume that Diddy was just taking care of her. Now, did she have a financial interest that may have encouraged her to do certain things? Yes. Is that flat out prostitution? And I'm ad-libbing here, but I believe this is true. And I think this is a reasonable assumption. You have to somehow have the agreement to say this money is for sex. Because otherwise, anytime you have sex with a woman and say, I don't know, afterwards or say later or say before you bought her lunch, it'd be like, no, you buying her lunch was for the sex. Like, that wouldn't be a fair way how to try to prosecute, because basically anyone you have sex with, you could never exchange money with, right? Because it could be seen a certain way. It could be seen, interpreted. And a lot of this stuff is up to interpretation. So I got to imagine there has to be some agreement. Yo, you're giving me this for that. So you must be unanimous on at least one specific act of transportation. And on the venue, the U.S. must prove at least one act occurred in the Southern District of New York. This is why they kept using the Trump Hotel in New York. And they're trying to prove that that's where a lot of the freak-offs happen. That's why they showed the bill. There's a lot of they showed the bill of the hotels because they're saying this happened. And within the Southern District of New York, Manhattan is there. Okay? Manhattan is there. The judge said, we're in the home stretch. In Wayne expert testimony, you should not just accept it because I allowed it. The testimony of the government officials are not worth more or less weight than any other witness. Witnesses given immunity should be examined with greater. With greater, I don't know what that word could be. Sorry. Greater scrutiny, I guess, than ordinary witnesses charts and summaries, demonstrative aids, they're not evidence and will not be available to you in the jury room. Scott Darkwez, thank you, my boy, for the 10. I'm a trucker, man. I took the month off the road, and I'm back out here now. I'm excited to catch up on all this news from the trial and the industry. While I drive, we appreciate the hours you put into this trucker chat. Now, I'm telling you, man, I love my truck job. My truck drivers and my delivery guys, you guys, I'm telling you, y'all the people who, y'all probably watch the entire stream. Not saying everybody else doesn't, but I know y'all watch the whole stream. Because y'all be having, you got to stay up. And if I do a service to you by helping you stay up while you travel all across the country, I appreciate you, hopefully just like how you appreciate me. All right. The judge is giving these instructions. It's getting there. Diddy does, yeah. See? It's these type of outfits. Look at this. Chill, why, what? Why to put Diddy in heels? But Diddy does not look, you got to put the gray hair. Got to put the gray hair. You got to put the gray hair. It's getting down to the wire, people. Getting down to the wire. It appears they might start deliberating at lunch. Let's try to get another tweet. Still waiting. Okay. We need to figure out is this? I want to see how they showing up to court today. How are they showing up to court today? I'm trying to see. Anyone who knows, anyone who, here we go. Chat, we got it. This is how they showed up today, June 30th. Wow, very different. This was kind of somber, right? Very different energy. Sometimes we see them coming in, yeah. Like this time, I think they're realizing this process is over. They finally got bodyguards now with the suit on. Why does this look like Ice from the Joe Budden podcast? This look like officially Ice from the Joe Budden podcast. Am I tripping if I make an assumption about body language? They don't look the most upbeat.
Ladies, that's how you look when he's taking off his shoes about to deal with you. Nah. Ladies, that's how you look when he's about to deal with your case. Boy, Quincy taking off boots.
Okay.
What's it?
Yeah, Quincy been there. No, it's not Quincy. This is Christian. Christian been there the whole time. He looks a little down. I could be reading wrong into this. This is Justin here.
What's it?
Looks like he got a lot on his mind. I don't fully understand it, no? Here comes the girls. These twins right here, Matching hairstyles, matching outfits all the time. Like, damn. Who's that? Here's the mother.
My mom's. I'm calling my mom's. OOTA.
Who's that? Lawyers, I guess. Okay. We are down to the final moments, people. Chat, can we get a preliminary? We need a vote. We need a vote. Let's run it for as long as we can. YouTube, we need a vote on what do you think the verdict is going to end up being? Do you think that Diddy will be found guilty or innocent? We'll keep it that broad right now, even though we have to go down per charge, which is 5. Here we go. On sex, okay, we read this already. Certain witnesses were permitted to be identified by pseudonyms. That should bear on your evaluation of credibility. The defendant had no responsibility to testify, and he did not. You must not attach any significance to that. Voluntary intoxication may negate the intent requirement. Ooh, that's another thing. Remember at the beginning, I said that Diddy was doing something adjacent to an insanity plea where he's like, yo, I was drunk this whole time. So basically he's saying that like, yeah, and remember I told you it was to try to like let people understand that if you see these mood swings or like outbursts, is, oh no, I'm drunk, I'm high, that's not me. Now we get to realize where it really plays in. It's going to negate the intent requirement. So voluntary intoxication may negate the intent requirement of the RICO predicates. Uncalled witnesses. Yes, you've heard the names of people not called as witnesses. Each side had an opportunity to call them. Do not speculate or consider this. This is going to be very important when he says voluntary intoxication may negate the requirement. Wow. What are y'all thinking? You know, when it comes to that Cassie beating video, Diddy wants to say he was drunk. He got in a fit of rage because he was intoxicated. He wasn't trying to sex traffic her and bring her back to the room for the freak off. In actuality, she never went back to the room to have sex. Now, the prosecutors came back and said, sex trafficking doesn't mean she had to have sex after the beating and you pulling her back to the room. Sex trafficking means that you pulled her back to the room with intent to have sex. What Diddy's also saying, I was drunk, bitch. I was drunk. I was off that motherfucking Terramana. I was off that liquor, man. I was off that. Blame it on the juice. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the 2C. Blame it on whatever. Blame it on the pills, the ecstasy, the Molly. Blame it on anything. Blame it on the cocaine. Blame it on something else. I said, Pop not guilty. Now, what I think this is a weak statute weak explanation about voluntary intoxication, saying it could negate, and then they say may, and they say does, may negate the intent requirement. Here's my thing about that. If the pattern of behavior is from 2004 to 2024, and some of the violence and the other behavior has continued all throughout those years. Diddy went to rehab, if y'all didn't know. He went to rehab at the time. But it continued after that. So if you're saying that it was the drugs, you claim you got help for the drugs, and then you still did the behavior. You even did one called the sober night. The sober night. Remember? They had a sobriety night. Remember, this is after the All-Star Freak-Off. Jane Doe complained about the drugs making her feel not good. Also, Diddy a real freaky nigga. Diddy brought a prostitute that was musty. Body odor kicking on 1,000. Jane said, I can't fuck him. I can't suck that dick. That smells disgusting. Then Diddy said to the prostitute he could go. Well, and I'm colloquially calling them prostitutes, even though none of them have admitted to be prostitutes. So we're going to just call them, I won't even call them sex workers. They're escorts. They're escort people. But for the idea that drugs fueled all of this and anything you saw Diddy was a mastermind of, maybe it was only because he was on drugs, he did do this as well sober. He did this as well sober. Chat, I see what y'all saying. That's the true definition of a sour D. Yeah. Diddy wanted her to suck the dude up when the dude was musty. The dude was musty. Diabolical, people. Very diabolical. Nate Dogg, I see you, my boy. I see you. There's a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of texts too. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let me see what Long Crime's got going on.
So there are so many going on. The breaks including breaks, ought to look pretty similar than what they did while they were hearing testimony.
Okay, so I guess this is by the way, chat, I've been looking for juror number 6. Juror number 6, you have been dismissed from the case. Big Ack want to talk to you. Big Ack needs to talk to you. We have to speak to somebody who's a juror who sat through this, and yes, he was dismissed because of a candor issue. However, we wanted to get his perspective. He was a black male. What did he feel, and where was he leaning to with all these charges? Did he think Diddy was guilty? He sat through the entire trial. The entire trial he sat through.
Instructions does the jury get to understand what their job is once these deliberations begin?
So there are always general instructions, a series of general instructions having to do with their obligations as a jury, including, but not limited to, things related to evidence as a general standpoint. Here's how you're supposed to weigh evidence. Here's where common sense weighs in. I'm not quoting, from exact jury instructions, but they do cover what their conduct is supposed to be as jurors, how they're supposed to weigh evidence, and then the specific causes of action themselves. Okay, as it pertains to racketeering, this is what needs to be shown, and then there's some supplemental instructions or some instructions that go into a bit more detail about each of the causes of action. So there'll be general instructions about their conduct, the things that they're supposed to do, and how to weigh evidence, as well as things that are specific to the causes of action themselves.
Again, it's supposed to take a couple of hours, and then it will be in the jury's hands. A couple more comments and questions coming in. I have to shout this one out from Nat Lai. Says I'm having a great hair day. Says, Chris, your hair is beautiful.
Don't
Dr.
give a fuck
Hendricks,
about
I'm
your
going to
hair,
turn to
nigga.
you right now. Someone asks here, I'll get their username in a moment. This is from Sparkle Thickness 5728. Is P. Diddy getting any sort of special treatment as he's been held at the MDC?
No, and I think probably the only special treatment he's probably given is where he's being housed in the East Building. MDC is set. There's two buildings. There's the East Building and the West Building. The East Building is mainly for the cadre inmates who are what we call,
You see? It's these outfits.
trustees, inmates that can move about freely throughout the facility to work and program. So he's in an open-based setting, and he's housed with probably about 15 to 20 other individuals that are awaiting trial. Typically, as someone who's facing a RICO charge will be in the West Building with other inmates that could either be terrorists, could be major drug dealers, or violent criminals. So I would say probably the only special treatment he's receiving thus far is where he's being housed. Because if he is convicted, those...
Now, that's a little bit different than what we heard from, but even though this is state prison. Y'all heard Whack 100, Tory Lanez. He said the floors in the jail is, I seen it somewhere. Said Tory has Louis Vuitton floors or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I got to ask Wack if it was trolling. Is it this?
They don't care about PC versus general pop. Like, honestly.
He's totally wrong. Because that wasn't a GP yard. It was a PC yard.
Oh, he's in a PC yard.
Yeah. So yeah. So and you got to remember.
Okay, I got it wrong.
Now this is what's crazy.
Thank you for clarifying.
This is what's crazy.
Now I know we're kind of beyond looking at what Diddy's jail, jail standards are, and it's definitely not comparable. He's in MDC, really a tough place to be. Unlike Tory, that's in California State Prison, which, as much as prison sounds worse than jail, but prison gives, because they plan for a longer stay, they give you a little bit more of a nice regimen and a little bit more amenities. But it gives you some type. The reason why we went to trial is because Diddy really couldn't take jail. And I mean, no one could really take jail, but he wanted to get out of there as quickly as he could. And he exhausted all his options for bail. And as soon as he exhausted it, he said, yo, let's go to trial. Fuck it now.
And that's why, because the dude was a child molester, that's why he was in PC. Oh,
Tory just went where they placed him. He's not a Crip. He's not a Blood. Once he gets there, oh shit, this is what they call. Tory was just gonna
matter if he goes to PC or not. Yeah.
I know what the inside of his cell looks like.
Huh.
Literally.
Okay.
I seen the paint. He got Louis Vuitton floors.
Okay. I don't believe that part.
I ever told you some BS?
Tory Lanez has Louis Vuitton floors in his state prison cell.
Y'all believe that? They said Tory Lanez is dripping even in prison. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I would call cap on that, but there's a famous rapper. I promise you. A famous rapper. I won't say the name. And this happened probably over 2 years ago. But I still won't say the name because they're still incarcerated. The nigga FaceTimed me from prison because he said, I need you to follow my new Instagram. Because I think the feds took his last one. I said, I need you to follow my new shit. So I'm popping out here. I'm like, okay. The nigga had on a Cuban chain, I swear. The nigga had on a Cuban link chain in jail. I couldn't believe it. So, it is possible. It is possible. And yes, that was federal custody.
R&B.
State prison cell.
R&B. Did Tory Lanez have Louis Vuitton? Bro.
Yes, he did.
You saw this.
I saw it.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to send it to you. I got it.
What is the material made out of?
He got a hold of paints.
Oh, it's just painted Louis Vuitton.
Browns and golds.
Okay. The nigga who called me, The nigga who called me had a legit Cuban link. And I look it on his neck and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, how does Wi-Fi work like that in there? I would think they would have the Wi-Fi block. I don't know how he got on. He was just like, yo, I run this shit. I'm doing whatever I want. I'm like, all right. I will not say that man's name. I'll just put it like this. I was scared of him in jail. I'm scared of him free and in jail. I'll leave that one alone. Shout out to him, though. Shout out to him. Hopefully he gets out soon.
Conditions that he's currently in will definitely be different.
Joe, I know you're a regular on Law and Crime. Kelly Bees 6578 says, "Oh, it's Joe again. Hi, Joe. I think he lives there." So it's good to know.
Okay. So she's
indictment. We knew that Cassie was working with the feds. We knew that she had powerful statements, and she was up on the stand for multiple days in both direct and cross. And I think she did a really good job of laying out so many facets of her relationship with P. Diddy, especially the fact that she started, meeting with him when she was 19 years old in the entertainment industry, that she signed this 10-album deal and only produced one because she alleges that Diddy stifled her career. And then, of course, to see the Intercontinental video and then hear Cassie's testimony in regards to all of it. She said she left.
Now, what do you guys think about this portion of it? So, through the direct examination of Cassie Ventura while she was on the stand, it was kind of made to say Diddy did not pursue or had no interest in Cassie's musical career. And he made sure she was unsuccessful, blocking opportunities, doing X, Y, and Z, because he wanted her to find her true calling, which was a freak off 2-time Hall of Famer. All the badges. That's what he thought her true calling was. That's what she pretty much agreed with prosecutors while they were questioning her. However, on defense, they then proved, not through Cassie, but subsequent things, when they had a financial officer up there, they had other people up there, and they said Cassie was one of the most supported artists on the label, if not the most. So they claim Cassie didn't get lack of support by Diddy. She got more than what she was warranted because she was Diddy's girl. Who do you believe? Who do you believe? Who do you believe? Do you believe that Diddy blocked her from being a star? Or Diddy tried everything he could fucking do to make her a star? And when she couldn't be a star, he said, come on home, baby girl. I got a starter spot for you on the Freak Off squad. Got all type of badges, 99 everywhere. Hall of Fame throat. I don't know about Hall of Fame box, because I ain't gonna lie. This nigga still fucked me up. This guy still fucked me up. I ain't gonna lie to you. This nigga still fucked me up. Like, I hope this... Did anyone prove that this nigga was telling the truth or what? Because this was diabolical, chat. I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe chat. I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe, chat. I'm still in awe. Here we go.
I know I'll never be able to ask her this question, but her vagina walls.
I don't want to make myself sound like I'm trying to aggrandize myself, but I used to, when Cassie and I would have sex, I would probably take less than 20 strokes to make her orgasm. I never orgasm really, because the problem was the fact that she's not tight and the baby oil. The baby oil was a problem. The baby oil kind of made sex impossible for a man to enjoy. Baby oil made a loose vagina, looser than it needed to be. So it was literally like a constant, it was like being in hell, being constantly tormented, like I was going to have an orgasm, but never being able to have an orgasm because she wasn't tight enough to make me orgasm. But she's orgasming back to back. I mean, I'm in her 20 strokes. Oh my God, she's squirting all over the bed. And then I'm like, yo, can I get something? Oh, I need a second. I think there was a period where
this thing is a liar, man. But it's entertaining. Yo, why? How come the liars are the best entertaining people?
had sex with Cassandra, and this is the truth. I don't think I had one orgasm in 6 months every time I met her.
Cassie Walls. I know I'll never be able to ask. They didn't put you or Rico on the stand.
No, because they knew we were going to say that she was complicit.
Like, I feel like they have to do some changes when it comes to the laws behind that, because if girls are choosing to have a pimp and the pimp is there to protect them and ensure that they're not getting mistreated during their encounters with men and stuff like that, and they have to pay the pimp for protection because, like, how is he going to make money? You know, to me, even though, yeah, he did all this shit, but I feel like the feds, they love a big cash out. 400 million is at stake that they're going to seize. I don't even think he'll have money for an appeal. The Justice Department will inherit $400 million that was, I guess, made off of sex trafficking or illegal criminal crimes using his organization, bad boy records and all that stuff. And meanwhile, they get to retire off of that money. And it's like, why are you allowed to retire off of money that you say is made legally, and y'all get to use it to pay federal witnesses and pay for y'all retirement as well too? The money should be burned, right? Nobody should get the money.
True. And it should definitely go to the true victims, some of the male prostitutes as this has happened to.
Wait, the male escorts are now claiming they're victims? Hold on now. Yeah, I don't know if you remember this guy right here.
This one time, the entire living room was dark, which I thought was weird. But basically, in this encounter, what she does is she keeps the room dark so I can't see the fact that she's menstruating. She kind of seduces me into thinking that we're going to have sex regularly because, again, I don't know she's on a menstrual cycle. She gets on top of me. She grabs my member. She inserts it in her because she's already wet. She's on her menstrual cycle. She orgasms real quick, and then I push her off of me, cut the lights on, and it literally looks like the St. Valentine's Day massacre. It's blood everywhere because she's heavily on her period. So I'm pissed. I'm like, I said, why would you do something like that to me? This is disgusting. Tasha, the girl is totally shitting on me. She's like, so what? So what? And she's arrogant about it. So Diddy's sitting there watching it. He's her man. He's her protector. I'm getting more and more.
Oh, so according to this guy, I really think this guy's capping, but let's go on to like the 5% chance he's not. Yeah, all right, let's go on the 5% chance he's not. What the fuck is this? Oh, let's go on the 5% chance he's not. His idea is that Diddy was a pimp and he looked at Cassie like a hoe. That Diddy was pimping. Really?
Aggressive. I'm calling her nasty bitchs. I'm pissed. He says, yo, you know something, bro? You mad cool. It's been like 6-7 years. I'm not going to lie to you. She knew she was on her period. She just really wanted you to come here. You see how we was calling you. You see how she demanded you come. So she had sex with you. He was like, yo, it was wrong. I'm going to give you some money. Calm down. Let's not do this. We've been seeing each other too long. He really used to try to be a mediator. I'm not going to lie. He goes in the room. He gets me like $5,000. He comes out. He gives me $5,000 to stop arguing with her. Tasha, I stopped arguing with her. He says, yo, go check it in your room. He gives me a key for my suite in the Beverly Hills Hotel. I take my $5 cash. I go to my room. I go to sleep. I wake up the next day. She calls me that night. She apologizes about the night before. She says, listen, I was drunk. I'm on my period. I was horny. You really disappointed me by the fact that you didn't want to come. And she said, yeah, what I did was wrong. I'm sorry. I should have told you I was on my period. She totally apologized. So how could you get on the stand and tell the stand that Diddy made you have sex with me when you know for a fact that I know that that's a lie?
Yeah, I think this guy's like a plant, and like he's there to just make Diddy look good, because he's kind of saying the opposite of like what the prosecutors are saying, and he's saying that's why they didn't put him up there, because the prosecutor knew he would expose that Cassie was willing, was a participant, and she wanted it most of the time.
There was one sex worker. He said that he got paid $5 million because he contracted herpes.
From Diddy? From
Yeah.
Cassie, from Diddy. I believe him. When I saw that interview, I knew that the things he was saying was the truth.
Now, again, we haven't heard any sex worker admit that Diddy was fucking them. So if they did contract something, they contracted it from Cassie, right? Because according to all the sex workers, and there is a MO, a modus operandi, where Diddy would just allow those people to have sexual intercourse, the male sex worker and Cassie, and then he would go play with the semen like Play-Doh in the other room, and then he would have his turn with her. There was one sex worker that did admit that Diddy told him to watch out. Like, it was like, yo, it's my turn now to fuck her. Like, wait, get out of the pussy real quick. It's my turn now. But Diddy never was ever intimate. We've never heard from someone who admitted that Diddy was intimate with them as a male sex worker, okay?
Because I didn't see Jonathan Odie's interview till 2021, and when I saw it, he said I was a sex slave for Cassie. It was like, oh my God, this guy's talking about my life. This was me.
Who the hell was making this shit up because he was like trying to kill Trump, and then he comes out with this interview talking about, yo, I was a sex slave, and we looking like, what?
He was younger. He was more attractive. You know, just like me, I'm older now, but at the time I was bigger, I was younger, I was more attractive. It was easier if you were in that lifestyle and you had a certain type of body, the physique, the chest, the arms. It wasn't really hard to be noticed by the right people. So I got noticed by Cassie, and that was pretty much history.
Somebody just said in the chat, do y'all think that Diddy had erectile dysfunction? Do y'all think Diddy had erectile dysfunction? By the way, I was watching this, and yes, we're still going through jury instructions. I'm waiting for some more tweets. Don't you worry. We're doing all hands 360-degree coverage of this Diddy case, and we're gonna give you every portion of it. Oh damn! Look at Lauren.
It's day 26.
All right, Lauren. All right, shorty. Yo, Chad, I might have to put that shit on. I'm about to meet her today. I'm about to put that shit on. I'm playing. Dr. Umar wouldn't approve. Dr. Umar. All right, let me see. What am I trying to Google here? Real life street stars. Okay. So the Punisher claims that he got erectile dysfunction because he said, and like, I want real niggas, but also, like, you know, obviously my chat queen's in here to chime in on this. I was watching this last night. I was in here like trying to clean up a little bit and not stream. What he said was he felt he developed. He said the situation with Cassie and Diddy helped contribute to why he had erectile dysfunction. So he developed a case of erectile dysfunction, and it came from, he said he was always drugged up during sex. And he even admitted, he said, yo, all these like performance enhancement pills that he would take, number one, he couldn't nut. And I'm being a little bit crass here, like, but I'm trying to keep it on some shit that makes sense. He said he couldn't orgasm because he was always jacked up on pills, and he was taking pills so much that without pills he couldn't couldn't get an erection. Let me have him explain it for a second.
Nah, so the way it was set up was she testified before me. So I was involved in stations, and I'm on the phone, and I told this circle of dudes from my gym on a group chat that it happened. This is on trial. I'm testified. I was investigated for what I really thought. I thought maybe he was like licking it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought, right?
So he's going back to, he said there was specific instruction on how he had to come on her.
All around the outside. And the reason why I suspected it was it was like mandatory that I had to finish each session orgasm. And it had to be specific. It has to be all around the outside of her vagina. You know what I'm saying? And what made me kind of figured something was going on with it. And honestly, what I really thought, I thought maybe he was like licking it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought, right? But I don't know. I didn't see. That's what I thought, right? But the cue was I would do it. And so, mind you, I told you, all the couches are covered in sheets. We start wearing towels. And when I would finish, she would never wipe off. He would get up, walk out the room. She would follow him. And she would follow in a way to make sure it doesn't come off. So I suspected something, but I didn't know it was the nipple lathering type.
Okay. We have the tweets. We have the remaining amount of tweets until the judge dismisses people. So let me get through them right now. So the judge says, any notes that you took are only for you. No outside reading. You're to consider only what was presented within the four walls of this courtroom. You may not communicate about this case, including on X, Instagram, or YouTube. If you see this, tell my deputy. He says, don't be swayed by the bias, including implicit bias. These hidden thoughts can impact what we hear, see, and how we remember it. You will now retire to consider the case. Each of you must decide the case for him or herself. After deliberating, your verdict must be unanimous. If you are divided, do not report the specifics. Your foreperson will send out any notes, any verdict. Any communication with the court should be in writing. The alternates do not have to be there, but have your phone number to my deputy. You may be called to replace a juror. You will be called when a verdict is reached. The alternates are 234, 230, 247, 292, 321, and 330. Those in the top row. The judge says, do not read any news report about this trial. If there were to be any, please accept my heartfelt gratitude for your service over the past 2 months. And even more, my deputy will provide my personal contact info. I could give you a tour of the courthouse. The alternates now leave. The judge says, here's the verdict sheet. Only if you find the defendant guilty of count 1, answer to each predicate. Not proved or proved. And did sex traffic involve Cassie or Jane? Count 2, 3, 4, and 5. We need to hear not guilty or guilty. The judge says from now on, your schedule is on your own. You will be provided with meals. Now the marshals will swear you in. They get sworn in. Now the jurors can head back to the jury room, and I want all to rise. AUSA Johnson says, we object to the inclusion of the subject lines of the BlackBerry messages like I'm so horny. Wow, this is like the 10th hour objection. Wow. Estavio says it's common for exhibits to include subject lines. BlackBerry messages are more akin to emails than to text messages. Judge says, let's have only neutral lists go to the jury. I'll trust the parties to provide an appropriate laptop to the juries. I'm going to stick around for a bit, but we may stay here for as long as they wish to deliberate. At the end of the day, we'll bring them in. The judge says, I appreciate the congeniality on both sides in this case. Anything more before we adjourn? Comey says no. Can we go to another floor of the courthouse and talk, I guess? The judge says, just give us your cell phone numbers. Adjourned. Okay? So we are now in deliberation. Okay? The jury will be deliberating. This could take any amount of time possible.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, Monday, June 30th, 2025. It's day 33 of U.S. v. Sean Combs, including the possible verdict today. I mean, deliberations will begin. Whether the verdict is today, we don't know. Jury instruction will be read by the judge. It wasn't put into the docket, which is kind of unfortunate. And then deliberations will begin, and at any time. Now, I'm assuming that there'll be some notes, and we'll be obviously live tweeting that. The notes that come out. Often then there's a negotiation of how to answer an oral question, legal question. And sometimes they'll ask for testimony, and then they got to go and redact it. Hopefully they've done a lot of the groundwork for this, because they're facing a deadline, and we'll get to it in a moment, as with the quote-unquote, and I'm putting it in quotation marks, big, beautiful bill, there's a deadline. Now, this deadline, whatever, July 4th is a holiday. So if the Diddy jurors do not reach a verdict, they'll just have to be coming back on Monday. They could conceivably come in on Thursday, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll get that long. Let's transition. Actually, no, it's still yet more on the Diddy docket. We put up week 7, the book, closings to deliberations. It's actually the longest one so far because there were a lot of words last week. 2 long closings, and we covered them, and we also have some analysis and some other case, but weren't. So check that one out. I think that's on numerous other crypto cases.
Okay,
here we.
I want you guys to watch that a little bit, but let me see what's going on here. They have adjourned. So the jury is now deliberating. Whenever they're back, Yeah, whenever they're back, they'll pop up back in court.
Thanks.
Did you ever ejaculate in her? Like, maybe it was like you got one off and he's like, oh, let me put.
Nah.
Okay.
And
the baby's yours, nigga.
Nah, never that. And the truth of the matter is, I never made it to orgasm from penetration.
Gotcha.
We would always do the.
That's interesting. And I'm not speaking about how loose her stuff is or whatever, but everybody says that with Cassie. They don't ejaculate from penetration. Number one, I don't think that's really all Cassie's fault. I think there's high pressure moment. You know you're supposed to perform. When you then find out it's Diddy, there's like just much more burden of expectation because you now, especially if this guy, he thought he was the only one fucking Cassie. He didn't think Diddy had a bunch of other people doing it. So he's thinking that, yo, all the pressure is on me because I'm doing something that Diddy can't do. So it's very pressured, you know?
Penetrate, because I was medicated up, man. I was on a bunch of pills. And I don't know if you ever over-medicated on pills, but you go numb. You can't feel nothing, right? So we would always finish sex and then I would have to rub it out. I had to rub one out. So it was very direct. Huh?
You was hitting Cassie off the natural? Or you said you was on the pills?
Oh, duh, I was on every pill I could find, man. Like, I was uncomfortable, so I had to.
In your book, you describe erectile dysfunction as freezer meat.
Yeah.
That name is wild as fuck. How did you come up with that name in particular?
All right, so real talk, how I got the name. I was on vacation with this girl. We was in Turks and Caicos. And so we on this beach. Turks and Caicos got this beach, man, where you could walk like a mile out into the water and it comes to your waist. There, yeah, yo, it's the bomb, right? So we out there, and during this time, I was already dealing with the kind of erectile dysfunction issues, but it was mental. Right. But I'm out there in this paradise and I didn't get anxiety and we messing around in the water and I got brick. And so when we messing around, she reached down and when she grabbed me, she said, damn, this thing is hard as freezer meat, right? So she said it to me, and at the time with me already dealing with erectile dysfunction, getting that type of compliment was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Right. So that always stuck with me. And at the time, I didn't realize it was anxiety causing it. I came back with some dumb, yo, it must be the Caribbean. You know, you get that sun and the sun from the Caribbean. And so I believed that was it. Yeah. But it kind of set a standard that I was trying to get back to. So I named the book In Search of Freezing It.
For men that are dealing with that, like, what would you tell them some things that they can do to come back from in that situation?
I mean, what I would tell them to do first and foremost is you got to understand it's mental, right? It's mental. And so what I was doing that was messing me up was I kept trying to fix a mental problem physically.
Right.
Was it stemming from the Cassie stuff?
The Cassie stuff contributed. That's why I put it in the book. So
hold on, champ. I'm grabbing Chick-fil-A, my lunch, before I go meet Lauren.
And a lot of dudes is messing up. You got a lot of guys that's younger that's using pills and using enhancements that really don't need it.
For sure.
Yeah. Right? So I started the same thing. I started taking pills in my 30s when I didn't need it. And then you get into a scenario where now you're dependent on the pill. And if you get into a situation with pressure, because we all every now and then meet a girl that's like, yo, I got to put this down. I want to make sure I come correct. And if you run into a scenario where you don't perform, now you're thinking the pill didn't work for me. And so in the Cassie Diddy situation, what I would do is you're supposed to take one pill, 20 milligrams. And going into that situation, one pill, 20 milligrams was good. But the anxiety made me next time I'm gonna take 2 pills. Next time I'm gonna take 2 pills in a honey pack, whatever. And that don't do anything. Your blood vessels can only open up so much, and that's what pills do. So when you overdose on pills, it ain't working no more for you. But anxiety creates cortisol, which constricts your blood vessels. So I'm taking all these pills, doing all these things, not addressing the anxiety. So I would tell a dude, first thing you gotta understand that it's your mind, right? And then once you understand it's your mind, then you play around with what remedy you're gonna use and get yourself as comfortable as possible. And if that still doesn't work, you know, like I say in my book, there's other things you can do. And I kind of chronicle all the things that I did to fix it leading up to the ultimate thing, which is an implant, you know? But so, and the biggest thing about it is don't give up.
Yeah. What was the worst thing that was causing it through your chapter? Like, what was the worst thing that you figured out for you that was causing the anxiety?
So the worst thing that I figured it out, and you know, I got to keep it this way. It's the feedback from your lady or the woman that's in your mind, your life, right? You know, it's already as guys as we get older, we already understand we ain't the same dude when we was in our 20s. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna feel there's a difference. Even if you're still doing your thing sexually, you ain't that guy, right? And so what killed me was I had a woman that I was into, I'm dealing with her, I'm thinking I'm holding it down sexually, and then she ended up cheating on me.
Right.
And when I asked her what for, she blamed it on me. Oh, well, you weren't coming correct. I wasn't satisfied. I had things I wanted to do. So when you...
I ain't gonna lie, man. I think they stole my Chick-fil-A gang. It's just crazy. I went out there. I don't even see that shit, bro. It's all good. All right. Is my man Sean G on? I know Sean G gonna give it up. Sean G gonna give it up. What Long Crime is hitting for right now? Oh. We are on jury watch, chat. I think they're gonna probably opt to take lunch. I mean, they're adjourned, so it's like the judge says. And by the way, there's a timer here. The judge says they're gonna be sticking around. Let me see. Who should we go to? Yeah, Logic ain't been giving us some updates, man. What's up with my boy? Okay. Yeah, this nigga done a million.
My very first encounter when I showed up for what I thought was a party, Ms. Ventura agreed. I quoted the price, it's $200 for a dancer. She gives me a location and a time, and I show up to do a little show.
And that was when you met, was it Cassie that reached out to you?
It was, yes, it was Cassie that reached out to me.
Okay. And then after that, you know, and I want to make this clear. I'm not looking to, I have nothing against Diddy whatsoever. I don't know him. I only know what I'm hearing and what people have told me. But, you know, in my position always is innocent until proven guilty. He's got a trial. He'll go through the process. The jury will make a decision, and we'll see what happens after that. So I'm not here to lay anything heavy on Diddy or anything else. I'm just having a conversation with somebody that's in the know about certain things. And then, you know, you kind of notice some things with Cassie. This kind of evolved into something more than just a one-time deal with you, correct?
Yeah, I mean, in total, and I don't even have an exact amount. I estimated 8 to 12 times, and it was over a period of 2.5 years. So honestly, it could have been more. It's 12, 13 years ago. I don't have a clear indication of how many times or whatever, but I estimate 8 to 12 times.
And you got involved in these, were you given any specific instructions? Because I know you got involved in these freak-offs, correct?
Yeah, so my specific involvement was always the same. And so my very first encounter when I showed up for what I thought was a party, Miss Ventura greeted me at the door in a robe, which you can tell she was nude. So the minute she opened the door, it was an obvious scenario that this was going to be different than a party. And so when we went into the room, obviously there were no guests. It was just me and her at the time. And, you know, we got to kind of like the living room area of the suite. And I still, you know, tried to go the route as if it was a party. So I asked her, hey, where do you want me to change? And she immediately explained to me, look, I don't want you to dance. Me and my husband, we like to create a scene where we want you to change into underwear or a towel. And she pointed into the living room area, which was dimly lit, kind of sexual ambiance, and all the furniture was covered with sheets. And she said, look, you're going to sit here. I'm going to be here. It was 2 couches adjacent from each other. And we're going to put baby oil on our body and create a sexy environment. And at some point, my husband's going to come out to watch. And then she specifically told me, when her husband comes out, I'm not supposed to look at him. I'm not supposed to acknowledge him. I'm not supposed to speak to him. I'm supposed to do my best to act like he's not even there. And she handed me a handful of money. I counted it when I got into the bathroom, and at that time it was $800. So I originally quoted $200. So now I got this beautiful woman in front of me. She hands me 4 times the amount, and it's like, well, hey, I'm going to try to make this work because, it seemed like a nice payday and simple at the time, And
was that the first time you met Diddy, where you saw Diddy?
Well, so here's the thing: I didn't actually see him. Right? When he did come into the room. And that was, I came out the bathroom with the towel and we started making this scene. And at some point from my peripheral, I could see him walk in the room, but he situated himself all the way across the room, kind of behind a table. It's like a table and chair setup. And he ended up being there. But the odd thing about it was he came in the room pretty much nude, but he had his face covered with, I believe it's called a hijab or a burqa. And this is what the Muslims women wear, where they completely cover their face. You can only see the eyes. So I really had no idea who he was. And initially coming in, I didn't recognize Cassie. She had on a wig.
Yo, that with a Yankee hat is crazy.
So the distinguishing stuff that would point her out there, her hairstyle, because she has at the time she had like a shaved hairstyle, it wasn't able to be recognized. And I really had no idea who they were till much further into the encounters.
So at this point, I mean, it's a sexual encounter, but there was nothing criminal or illegal done at that point during the whole session, I would say.
Yeah, nothing criminal and illegal about the session itself. I mean, the only, I guess, illegal scenario would be is the prostitution itself, because it was money in exchange. But this specific situation we're talking about, there wasn't even any sex. Right. My very first encounter, I was told it was creating a sexy scene. We created it with just kind of rubbing oil on each other, and she would do gestures. I would do the same, but there was no actual sexual activity between us. And then at some point, who I'm thinking is her husband, Mr. Combs, got up. He left the room. She followed him out, came back and told me, hey, that was great. It was perfect. Thank you. Handed me an additional $1,200. And said, hey, look, I'm comfortable with you. When we come back to town, is it okay if I call you again? And I'm like, absolutely, sure. And she did at that time offer me the option to finish. She said, hey, do you want to finish? Which, I understand to be, did I want to orgasm? And I actually declined. I wasn't comfortable with the situation. And I'm trying to be professional, right? Because I believe what the circumstances are. So I said, hey, look, this is not about me. This is for you and your husband. If you're good, I'm good.
In hindsight, I take that question of her asking him to finish, or if he wants to finish, they're trying to get that nigga nut. Yo, Diddy's doing some weird nut harvest and shit, bro. Gotta be.
And I declined finishing, partially in transparency because the uncomfortability of the situation, I probably would have had an issue getting an erection and finishing anyway. So I declined, and she said fine. And from there, I headed home.
And was that the only encounter you had with her, or were there more?
No, that was just the first. Like I said, it went to 8 to 12. So the next encounter, it was pretty much the same, but there was conversations prior to the sexual activity about my sexual health, her sexual health, and the desire to actually do more than just a rub down. So that's when the sexual encounter started.
And let me ask you, Sheree, this was considered a freak off, right? Even though there was only just the two of you and Diddy present? Because my impression was that there were always a lot of people present at these freak offs.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that, Mr. Combs he's known for throwing these elaborate parties, that you can go to a place of the party, and I guess there's sexual activity. And then there's these kind of scenarios with Miss Ventura where it's just him, her, and a male, and another male creating a sexual environment, and that's being described the same way. So it just appears that anything that he does with a sexual nature, even on a smaller scale, all these huge parties, they're all going under the same umbrella as freak off, which I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what everything is being described at. I know when I see myself reported in the media, it says I was a part of a freak off. So this is considered that.
Got it.
You were my boy.
During any of this time, did you ever see any indication that Cassie might have been in an abusive situation with Diddy?
Not at all. Not at all. I always felt it was consented. I always felt everything was, I always felt she was in her right frame of mind. She didn't appear to be under the influence of any drugs or anything like that. And I never.
It really surprises me that they brought this guy as a witness. Does he seem credible? Yes. Does he seem credible? Yes. But he's not really saying anything but, oh, okay. Yeah, I was an escort or a dancer at first, and it kind of turned into them paying me for sex. But he's kind of saying that none of those acts were non-consensual.
Never seen any interaction between them that seemed something that was distressful for her. The only thing that I did say in my testimony was that I saw moments of what I would consider frustration and her reaction, but that was based on directions. Like during our encounters, he would give directions, which was mainly about, is candle lit? Could, move the candle a little bit more, move whatever. Can you move to the left, move him to the right? You know what I'm saying? Like these things. And sometimes they were repetitive and very specific. So I would see maybe like you know what I'm saying? Like that type of stuff, but nothing that would resemble her being in distress.
Do you know if were these being filmed at all, or they were just encounters for his pleasure only?
So I don't know. It was always in a dark room, and it could have very well been a camera or something set up, but nothing that I knew was present or that I consented to. I had no idea.
Yeah, the reason I ask you that, because I think, part of the allegations against Diddy is that he would have these films so that he can have a blackmail situation. And again, these are the allegations not coming from me, that he would be able to blackmail if anybody were to turn on him. But you didn't get any indication of that.
No. I could have very well been filmed, but I have no idea.
Let me ask you, on cross-examination, how did the defense try to portray you? Did they try to beat you up at all? Did they try to discredit you?
No, that was surprising to me because it was actually the opposite. They actually took a route of creating more credibility. So I guess once they heard my initial testimony, and I'm saying I didn't see any aggression, it seemed consented. The attorney, I think his name was Xavier Donaldson, he went the route of bringing up the fact that I've been a male entertainer for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And it's accurate. When you walk into a room as a male entertainer and it's a room full of women you never met, you have to quickly assess the room because you're trying to entertain them in a sexual nature. So I have to read the room to make sure whoever I'm going to is comfortable with the activity. So he kind of harped on that. Look, you've been doing this 25 years. Would you ever go to dance on a woman or engage with a woman who was uncomfortable with you interacting with her? And the answer is absolutely not. I have to be able to read the room, get to a woman's comfort level and assess that. So then he kind of shifted that narrative to the situation with Miss Ventura. Well, look, based on your knowledge, your expertise of doing this all these years, if you would have noticed her being uncomfortable or in a place out of her mind or not in a proper state, would you have proceeded? And the answer is absolutely not. So I was expecting kind of a tough, because all of my, they do the mock courses.
Right.
So, and their expectation was to discredit and stuff like that, but he actually went a completely different lane and provided more credibility.
Well, that makes sense to me because I think their major defense here in all of this is that all of this was consensual. Nobody was abused. Nobody was forced into this. Nobody was, physically abused. But this was all consensual relationships and sex. So it would make sense that they would treat you that way. That's why I asked that question. Did Cassie ever, say to you that she was? Obviously, we saw the video of what happened in the hotel, so we know that there was that one incident. But did Cassie ever express to you that Diddy was abusive to her in any way?
No, I mean, we actually, other than very, very cordial initial conversation, when I would arrive, hey, how's work, how's things or whatever, we didn't get into a lot of personable conversation. It was kind of like stuff. So in terms of her confiding in me of anything that could have been going on, it wasn't. I mean, most of the conversation was, again, just checking in on what's going on with me and surfacing. One time I had like a scar on my arm. She mentioned, hey, I got some scar cream, gave it to me, try that. And she more or less just thanked me for keeping their identity and what they do private, in terms of, obviously this has been going on for years and they didn't get any feedback or indication that I'm talking about it publicly and putting their business out. So no, absolutely not. I had no indication.
And when this ended with you, you just weren't called anymore? Did it end on a good note, or they just didn't need your services anymore? How did it end?
So I never had a full reason why it ended, but my assumption was it had went a long period of time where I had not been called, let's say maybe about 6 months. And during that period of time, I had an injury. I tore my bicep. So, and anybody knows about that injury, it's a rough injury. You can't work out, you can't do anything. It's a long healing process. So after going through that healing process and getting called, me, myself, I know the physical condition I'm usually in is not the same. And also with that long period of time, we're in kind of like a sexual scenario. And one of the directions was very specific. We were doing kind of like preliminary stuff. And one of the instructions was he wanted to see penetration. So he kind of walked over in the middle of us doing a massage thing. And he actually threw up like a wad of condoms on the couch. And he basically says, I want you to, and honestly, the time in between was never really a comfortable scenario for me anyway. I couldn't perform. So I always assumed the fact that I could not perform that time, and I'm showing up months later, not in great physical shape and stuff like that. I kind of felt like, well, this is a fail. I did not make the fantasy that I was hired for. So I assumed that could be a reason why I wouldn't be called back. So that's my assumption. But that's kind of how the last situation went. And that was the last time I was called.
And you never spoke to Cassie again after that?
No communication.
That was it. Nor did he.
No, so here's the thing. I never had communication with Diddy the entire time. No, ironically, I never spoke to him. I never had even direct eye contact with him. The first time after all these instances that I had direct eye contact with him was leaving the courtroom after I testified.
Wow. And I think it's fair to say, Sheree, that you have no interest in which way this turns out. If he's guilty, he's guilty. If he's innocent, he's innocent. You have no horse in this race, so to speak, correct?
I don't, man. Actually, that is something that I really wanted to portray as solid as possible with my testimony. I am compelled to be here and I have to give the facts of what I was involved in and what I saw. But I didn't want to have any bias or anything associated with my testimony that seemed like I was in favor of either party. They got 12 jurors there. That's their job to decide.
I think that's really commendable. Having been to trial 5 times myself, the best witnesses are those that have no interest in the outcome. You're up there to tell the truth, and that's it. Whatever way it works out, it works out. So that's commendable, and I have to say that. And again, I'm a veteran of those situations. Let me ask you, You wrote a book, In Search of Freezer Meat is the title, right?
Yeah.
Explain that title to me.
Okay. All right. Wow. All right. We're getting there. We are getting there, people. We're getting there. Okay. Let's see. We're literally just kind of just waiting.
Every single witness, Sean Combs' purported chief of staff, the main it all, but I want to let you know about what's going on with these jury instructions. So, of course, the Judge Arun Subramanian, went through all of the elements of all of the charges: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution, but arguably the most complex is racketeering conspiracy. And for instance, the judge said the government is going to have to prove that there was a mutual understanding to cooperate in a criminal enterprise, one that the government says that Sean Combs led. They can infer that. Actions speak louder than words, because you're not going to have, an example. By the way, this is a shot of what the jury deliberation room looks like, because you're not going to have them all, evidence of them all signing a contract to engage in or agree to engage in criminal activity. Was there an inferred agreement? And this was really interesting, talking about the 8 underlying predicate crimes that the government has to prove at least 2 within a 10-year time frame. So there's bribery, arson, forced labor, kidnapping, drug offenses. And I thought this was interesting. I want to call this out. The judge said that witnesses who were given immunity in this case, they should be examined with greater care than ordinary witnesses.
Oh, there was care.
There were a number of witnesses who testified under immunity. That witnesses who were permitted to testify under pseudonyms, for example, Mia, for example, Jane, that bears on your evaluation of their credibility. That the defendant had no responsibility to testify. You can't attach any significance to that. In other words, because Sean Combs chose not to testify, you can't use that against him. This was interesting as well. Voluntary intoxication may actually negate the intent requirement of the RICO predicates. We'll talk about what that means. Uncalled witnesses. For example, Christina Coram, whose name came up, I don't know, every single day with almost every single witness. These people who were mentioned but never called as witnesses, each side could have called them. That's what the judge said. Don't speculate or consider this. And then finally, when they were sent back to deliberate, the judge said, the schedule is your own. You're going to be provided meals. They've begun their deliberations. And if they want to continue past 5 p.m., they may be able to do so. We're going to keep a very careful eye out and ear out if we get any juror questions or what's going to happen. But right now, I want to take your questions. So I am joined right now by celebrity criminal defense attorney from McMonigle, Perry, McHugh, Meshach, and Davis. Brian McMonigle is with us. We're also joined by criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla and Lawn Crime's very own host of Scandal outside of the federal courthouse right now, Sierra Gillespie. It's great to have you all here. I said all-star panel. I wasn't lying. Sierra, I'm going to start with you because we got a super chat question from Diana YX3GU. Thank you so much for the super chat question. Does the jury return home at the end of the day, or are they sequestered in a hotel? What do we know, Sierra?
This is a really great question, because especially when it comes to a trial like this where so much is on the line, huge stakes for P. Diddy. I mean, if he's convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars in prison. So we want to make sure the jury is paramount. So that is a question. Could they be sequestered? Will they, won't they? And the answer is they will not be. They were not. So every night after, the whatever happened in the courthouse behind me, they listened to all the testimony, went through the evidence, wrote in their notebooks, and then got on the subway, took a train or an Uber, walked home wherever they went, and that was their night. So over the weekend, this is something I've been thinking a lot about, Jesse. Over the weekend, after we heard closings from both sides and the rebuttal, they went back home to wherever they're going. So to me, I'm thinking it's got to be going through their minds, right? They're going to be thinking about what they heard on Friday, and really throughout the entire case so far, I'm sure it's kind of been in their minds as they're leading into deliberation. And as it continues, by the way, they'll still go home tonight once everything's finished. If we're still deliberating tomorrow, or they're still deliberating tomorrow, I should say, they'll go home. No need to stay in a hotel or be sequestered.
Yeah, if I had to take a guess, unless they were close to a verdict today, I think they're going to want to go home by 5 o'clock. I don't believe that we're coming back with a verdict today. I think this case is so complicated. They have so much material to go through. I think this is going to take several days. Maybe we'll put up a poll. Maybe we have a poll up about how long we think the jury deliberation process is going to take.
We should do a poll on that too, chat. How long do you think it will take? Shit, I'm a betting man. I think it's going to take 3 days. I think 3 days. I don't think they want to come back after July 4th. And I think today's too early. And I think tomorrow they're going to get down a lot of heavy lifting. And they're going to finally, whoever is the person who's voting on either side, who's kind of hanging this thing up, they're going to cave on Wednesday.
Let me bring back in Brian and Mauricio. Brian, you ready for this? We got a question from @Leon the Spesh One. I don't blame Leon the Spesh One asking this, but what's RICO? What's RICO, Brian?
Well, it's a statute that's existed for decades, and it was created to really shut down organized crime, but it requires precisely that, racketeering, a racketeering enterprise, a conspiracy to commit racketeering. And you need, as is reflected in the statute itself, a criminal enterprise. So the first thing the government has to prove that there was a criminal enterprise. The second thing they have to prove that criminal enterprise engaged in at least 2 predicate acts that had been highlighted in the indictment of the many that were highlighted. And they've got to prove those acts beyond a reasonable doubt in furtherance of the conspiracy, which is the racketeering. And if the government's able to do that, then this gentleman's going to spend a long time in prison. And if they're not, as I suspect they might not, he could be acquitted of these charges. But, it's interesting because this statute long ago was created to deter organized criminal activity. And now we're seeing it in cases like this with wealthy individuals who have the money and the means by which to get together with other people and sometimes commit criminal acts. So it'll be interesting. To me, it's a very significant test case for the racketeering statute.
I agree with you. Look, the prosecution's narrative is he had these assistants, he had these bodyguards, they knew exactly what was going on. They knew exactly what was happening behind closed doors. They helped set up the sexual events. They helped clean them up. They were instrumental in the kidnapping. They were instrumental in forced labor. They were instrumental in drug distribution. They were instrumental in bribery. He couldn't have done it alone. Defense's perspective, and we heard it from the defense's closing argument with Mark Agnifilo, who did he conspire with? You didn't hear one person talk about a criminal enterprise, say they were part of a criminal enterprise. Christina Coram, that's the co-conspirator. She's not a co-conspirator. And I think it was interesting because Mark Agnifilo had said, if it was John Gotti and Sammy the Bull was the co-conspirator, you think people are calling Sammy up for help? I mean, because the idea was that the alleged victims were calling Christina Coram up for help. So it raised kind of an interesting question there. Mauricio, I go to you. We got a question from LaRob Show 6300. Question is he cooked on the Mann Act charge, so that's transportation to engage in prostitution, or does he have a shot? And overall, what's your gut feeling on the rest of the charges? More likely conviction or acquittal?
I'm thinking more likely conviction when it comes to the Mann Act of transporting, persons for the sake of prostitution. I don't know. I think they have them dead to rights. I've heard a lot of testimony about a lot of people that were directly engaged in it, and
it's hard for me to take this nigga serious because he was the guy who was representing the killers of X, and he did such a botched job of just making up all type of wild, crazy theories. And after I seen what he did there, it's hard for me to just listen to him and take him serious. The nigga wanted me and Drake to get up on the stand to prove that the niggas didn't kill X.
And that came out through multiple witnesses, and I think it was something that he wasn't really worried about because I don't think, and I've said this on...
Inside that courtroom, she is with us, everybody. Fan favorite. Elizabeth, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. So I'm going to get right into it. We got questions coming in for you. This is from RSS9965. What will Elizabeth Milner do the rest of the day while the jury deliberates? Will she remain in court in case jury has jury questions?
Yep, well, I will definitely be back inside that courtroom again once, I do my hit with you, Jesse, once I chat with you guys and say hello. But my plan is to go get some food, go upstairs, see what's going on up there. But I have a book with me just in case, because I know it's going to be a long deliberation and I don't expect them to come back with a verdict anytime soon. But we'll see. You never know.
All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to get questions about what the book is, but I'll allow our viewers to ask. Okay, Elizabeth, RSS 9965. Has Elizabeth made any press court observer friends? If yes, can she bring them on as guests during our next break?
Oh my God, I should. I should go find them. I feel like they're all kind of scattered around here a little bit. Some of them are probably doing their own live hits. Some of them are probably still inside the courtroom right now, just kind of waiting to see what's about to happen. What we do know is that, and I'm pretty sure you probably already reported on this, Jesse, is that they've finally and officially selected a foreperson. So that's probably the biggest news that we've come out since the jury's gone back to that room to start their deliberations. But I'd love to bring on some of the friends. Like, we should bring in like all 21 of us and have just one big giant like live shot and conversation. But if I can find someone, I might bring them on. Who knows? Just stick around and stay tuned.
If you try to get 21 people onto this live shot, our control room's going to have a heart attack. So I'm going to probably advise against. Yeah, they're going to have a heart attack. So I'm going to advise against that. Let me ask you this. Jury instructions can be rather bland. I think they are so important in this kind of case. Was there anything that stood out to you today about them? I think the judge even said, I'm going to try to make it a little interesting for you. Was it interesting? Was there anything that stood out to you? Maybe it was about the racketeering charge. Maybe it was about sex trafficking. As I mentioned before, I thought it was interesting, how to weigh witnesses who testified under a pseudonym, witnesses who testified under an immunity agreement. What stood out to you?
Yeah, well, definitely the judge was like, oh, well, I'm going to try to make this interesting, but no offense to the judge at all. It wasn't as interesting as I think he probably wanted to make it for the jury, but he did do it in a pretty quick speed to the point where I was like, oh, this is it. And then they're done. Then they went back to deliberate. But I think some of the points that kind of stood out to me was, one, that these jurors have to be impartial. Two, I think another thing that stood out was just the indictment versus how important the indictment is to the actual jury deliberation, in that you shouldn't be taking the indictment as just the word and that's just the say so and that's how things go. I think also the jury, because we discussed this earlier, Jesse, about whether or not will the jury have in their mind that the defense didn't put up any witnesses, that the defendant didn't testify in his own defense. But the judge, according to his instructions, said you can't take that into accountability take that into account, I should say, only because the burden of proof is all on the government. The burden of proof is all on the prosecution, and they are the ones who have to prove their case. Because, and despite what a lot of people may want to assume, is that Sean Combs is not guilty, he's innocent until proven guilty. And so I think a lot of people, especially the jurors, have to keep in mind that, they may have had thoughts in their head, but until they all have that discussion over at that table, I think it's a round table too, in that quiet room, in the courtroom, for that matter, I think that they all have to kind of really talk through everything. That just because we outside in the press who have been covering this case since the start may have our opinions about things, but it's up to these 12 jurors, these 4 women and these 8 men, to decide what is the fate of Sean Diddy Combs, and it's up to them to be making that decision.
Yeah, again, we are in verdict watch right now. They just went back to deliberate. If there is a court update, if there's anything that happens, we will bring it to you live in real time. Elizabeth, before you have to jump back in, you got a bunch of compliments. Poison Ivy 3, Elizabeth's hair is popping. We got Smarty Pants 1225, super chat comment. Thank you so much. Queen Lizzie, your hair looks glorious today. Everybody loving your hair. Thank you. And then Splunks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Splunk's mama asks Elizabeth, what are you currently reading?
Oh, that's a good one. And don't judge me, everyone who is watching this live stream. I'm reading Wicked. Why? Because I'm so excited for Wicked Part 2 to come out. And I was like, let me just read the entire book. And I know it's a lot different from the movie, but I was so excited. So that is my book of choice to be reading while the jury deliberates in this case.
And I'll tell you what, I don't blame you for reading something completely inundated with a lot. I don't blame you at all. Elizabeth Milner, great to see you and considering. So hope everybody can check that out. Celtic Girl Kaz, thank you, sir. They are at.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's been my experience that what they'll do is they'll kind of start with the first count because that count is first in the indictment. But they may find very early on that they don't have unanimity on anything. And they may then jump to the third count and say to themselves, well, you know what? We all seem to be agreement here. Let's start here. Let's look at the easy stuff before we get to the more complex stuff and see if they could find a unanimous verdict on the third count. Jurors do what jurors want to do in that deliberation room. And, we talked a lot about how long it's going to take for them to deliberate, when they'll come back with a verdict. We don't know if this jury is going to be splintered. We don't know right now if of these, 8 men and 4 women, or if I think I have that right, where they stand and if there's going to be an impasse on one count or multiple counts. But where they begin, they usually start with the indictment, and they usually will track the indictment because they're going to have a copy of it back there with them. And what ops they hit along the way might dictate how they pivot and then look on to different charges.
And I wonder if they'll start with racketeering, or they'll start with sex trafficking, or maybe they'll start with transportation to engage in prostitution, which again seems to be like the more streamlined, more simplified charge to potentially convict Sean Combs on. And that's not advocating for him to be found guilty. That's just, in my legal opinion, feels like the strongest case for the prosecution. Let me go to you, Mauricio.
Jesse, what's interesting about that, I wanted to add was, let's assume that this jury only convicted him of that third count.
Yeah.
Under federal sentencing guidelines, he's only exposed to, believe it or not, 15 to 21 months of incarceration on that count.
Up to 10 years, though. Up to 10 years.
Yeah, but sentencing guidelines are followed by the judges routinely, and nobody gets a statutory max on any kind of a crime who's never been convicted of a crime before. So the guidelines this judge will start with for that count is only 15 to 21 months. So you talk about a victory.
Wow. 15 to 21 months. Let's say he gets 50. Well, we imagine that he would get found guilty on both of those. You run both of them concurrent. Let's say he gets 15 months. If he gets 15 months, ladies and gentlemen, we could see Diddy out in a month or two. Wow.
For the defense, if that were to happen, it'd be a home run. He's almost got that time in.
Yeah, because think about it like this. He's looking at potentially life in prison for racketeering conspiracy. He's looking up to minimum 15 years in prison on sex trafficking. So yeah, 100% that would be a win. Okay, Mauricio, we go to you at Stella K80 or K80. How much does a lawyer's charisma, likability, and skill with the razzle-dazzle influence the outcome of a big trial such as this? Great reporting and hi from the UK. Thank you so much for the great question, and thank you for watching abroad. So I guess, how much does a lawyer's charisma, likability, skill, razzle-dazzle, how much does it affect the jury?
I think it's everything. I think it's everything. You have to keep them entertained. You have to keep them paying attention. They have to, at some level, like you, and they have to, at some level, like your client. If you expect for all of them to acquit your client, I've said this previously. I mean, when I first started doing trial work, I would look at other attorneys, and sometimes I would be like, oh, that guy's too dramatic. And after doing this for 23 years, I can tell you that you can never be too dramatic. You got to use props. You got to speak loud. You got to connect one-on-one with jurors. Eye contact. They have to really believe in you, and they have to believe in your client if you expect for them to acquit your client. So yeah, it really is everything. And in this particular case, they had some of the best in his defense.
It's a shame, Mauricio, that you are so timid and you're so quiet, and it's a shame you don't have the razzle-dazzle, Mauricio. I mean, after speaking and knowing you for so long, I wish you had that, unfortunately. No, you are. I could see you in a courtroom. I could see the jurors gravitating towards you. It's why you're such an excellent attorney. Which now, let me look at this. Look at this. We've asked a question that I think it's important, because to be these jurors, not an easy task. Being on this trial for 7 weeks, now there's deliberations and everything they've seen. We asked a question, a poll, have you served as a juror on a state or federal jury? 14% said yes, 86% say no. Yeah, not a lot of people. Okay, Brian, I have to ask you, this is my question. Voluntary intoxication, negating elements or negating criminal intent for the predicates, the 8 underlying predicate crimes. Can you explain that to me? How does that exactly work?
Well, I'd really like to see that definition because that was interesting to me when you said it. But certainly, if someone chooses to voluntarily take drugs or alcohol, it could negate, in many instances, the ability for them to complain of coercion, to complain that they were victimized. If it's a co-conspirator in the case and that individual is intoxicating themselves, they have a hard time arguing that they were in league with or conspiring with somebody because they aren't in the right frame of mind to have done so and shared that what we call that specific intent or that intent to commit the crime. But I was interested I'd be more interested to see what that related to and which particular count.
Let me throw something out what it might be.
Yeah.
A big theme is for sex trafficking, did he know that they didn't consent? Okay, that's the allegation, right? They didn't consent. And the idea would be, how was he supposed to know? Maybe he didn't know. I don't know if that makes sense. Would that make sense to you, Brian? Like he didn't know because of the state that he was in?
With sex trafficking, how do you posture that? You've got everybody admitting that they're taking drugs, everybody admitting that in the beginning, at least, of these freak-offs, they were willing to do so. So I think what the judge is basically instructing this jury to do is to look carefully at the issue of intoxication, because you're not going to be able to complain in one instance that you're a victim and that you've been victimized. When you voluntarily engaged in criminal activity or freak-offs that are, sexual activity, and because you voluntarily intoxicated yourself, you now say, well, I don't know if I had the ability to consent. That doesn't really fly. I think the best thing the defense has going for them is that each and every one of these women admitted under oath, which you never get in a racketeering conspiracy, that they voluntarily engaged.
So Diddy's case or trial has finally started. They're picking out the jurors and stuff. Do you guys feel like Diddy will be freed, or you feel me, he's cooked? I've been reading a lot of comments. A lot of people have been saying that Diddy's cooked. You feel me? I don't even know how I necessarily feel about Diddy. Because like at first everyone wanted him locked up. Then it's like people kind of feel bad for him now. Because I'm not gonna lie, the stuff he did to Cassie is 100% wrong. What he did to Cassie is 1,000% wrong. And people would never agree with it. But like, if you want to call it for what it is, Diddy was a freak. Okay, if people underage are involved, lock him up, throw him under the jail. But if people underage aren't involved, bro, Diddy is a freak, bro. Like his lawyer said, he's a swinger, bro. Like you feel me? He might want to watch his wife get piped out. He might, you don't know what did he want to watch. He wants to watch everything. He's a freaky man. He's a freak. That's why they're called freak offs. Get all the freaks together. What do you think's gonna happen? Baby oil with stuff in it that when it goes into your skin, you're paralyzed. Like, yes, that's what happens at the freak off. There's obviously two parties to a Diddy party. There's the party, and then there's the party party. Have you ever been invited to the party party before? Probably not. But hey, man, let me know how you guys feel about Diddy. Do you want him locked up or do you want him free? Do you feel bad for Diddy? Even if Diddy gets freed, I think his career is done. No one's ever gonna work with him again. No brand's gonna work with him. You feel me? He's still gonna make money off. He probably has real estate like tenants and stuff, and probably like investments that we don't know about. So he's probably still gonna make money, but he's not gonna be making the same money as before. Like he's probably definitely at a billionaire status now. But hey, man, it's your boy Big X News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.